Welcome to Pixelated Therapy, where we like to take the subjects of gaming, psychology, and show how well the two work together. At the same time, we like to show what this has to do in your life. This week, we want to talk about the information gap. In the last video, we discussed the topic of clickbait, and we took the time to define what it is. We looked at the fact that clickbait was anything that used manipulative tactics to boost the curiosity of a reader or listener for the purpose of making money. We talked about how clickbait may or may not have a whole lot to do with the subject at hand. That's not what matters, but clickbait is just looking to draw you in. And I even did so by using a clickbait video. And again, I hope you forgive me for that. At the same time, I hope it was very informational for you. Well, today we want to better understand how clickbait works by discussing one factor that may draw a person to a video or an article. That is the information gap. Now, when we talk about the information gap, there are some assumptions we need to bring up here at the very beginning. There are two that are important to this. First of all, you lack knowledge about something. I know that sounds kind of rude, but it's true. Every person is ignorant about something. When I say ignorant, all I mean is there are certain things that we don't know. We are all ignorant of something. Well, what do we want to use in order to gain that knowledge? Well, there are a variety of things we could use. There are books, there are newspapers, there are magazines. We also have the wonderful tool called the internet to gain knowledge about various facts and discussions. In fact, I use the internet to gain access to many of the studies that we discuss in the Pixel Therapy videos. Well, as such, where can we turn to gain information? To all of these sources. But the first assumption is we lack knowledge about something. Assumption number two is that you want that knowledge. We may be unknowledgeable about any number of things. And again, just as an example, anti-disestablishmentarianism. Yes, that's a word. You may not know anything about anti-disestablishmentarianism. Well, what happens if you want that base knowledge? Well, you can search for information concerning the British religious movement. You could go to Wikipedia, you could go to online encyclopedias, or read articles that were written by individuals. I don't know if there are actually any articles written by this, but I mean, there's probably something out there. Well, based on these two assumptions, this lack of knowledge creates what is called an information gap. That there is a gap of knowledge that we are missing, and it's one that we hope to fill. Now, when we discuss the idea of the information gap, there are a few factors behind our wanting to fill that. First of all, there's curiosity. You're doing a research paper for a class project and you notice a keyword or phrase which you have never heard in relation to the subject. I'll give you an example. While I was doing research on clickbait, I came upon the phrase information gap. It's one that I was not aware of at the time, or I may have been aware of it and forgotten it, but curiosity led me to do more research on this. There are sometimes you might look as to its meaning. There are other times where the curiosity fades and moves on, but when that curiosity builds in us, we usually end up searching for that information. So that's a big factor, is curiosity. Another example might be when you are looking to play a video game or to purchase a video game. What would you do? Well, you're going to take the time to read reviews. You're going to take the time to, watch gameplay videos and get thoughts of those individuals. Again, curiosity is going to build us to want to find something out. So that's one factor. The second factor is anticipation. What sort of wonderful information are you going to find? Will this information give you new wrinkles on your brain that you can use on your paper? Will it better help you understand whether or not this game is worth buying or not? Or maybe you'll gain some sort of insight on how to play the game better. So that anticipation, what am I going to learn from this video? What am I going to learn from this article? That's a factor that makes you want to fill that information gap. Well, there's also the decision-making process. Maybe you are thinking of buying a video game, or, we go back to that idea of that key phrase, you're wanting to decide whether or not that phrase might be good as an additional thing to your paper. Yes, it would get you a number of different sources to add to the paper and help fill that quota, but it might be good to add to the paper to cement the information that is needed on this subject. Well, what do? You do extra research on that phrase, and you take the good and the bad to make an informed decision as to whether or not to add it. But in the same manner, there are factors that lead us to not want to do the research. And we'll cover those very quickly. It's actually the opposite of the three that we've just discussed, but I do think it's important to remind us of anyway. First of all, there's decision making. You may feel the research is not worth looking over. You might feel that your knowledge is superior on a certain subject, and so no further is needed, or you might consider the information irrelevant to your needs at hand. And so, that being in mind, it may be something that in your mind it doesn't affect anything whatsoever, so you just leave it out. Well, if there's anticipation, there's also fear of discomfort. What sort of scary information is in store for me? Yes, information is helpful, but depending on the subject matter, this information may bring me more pain to know. It may make me feel uncomfortable. One might consider the idea of doing research about a medical issue. It might be the case that you or a loved one's dealing with a certain problem, and yes, that information might be valuable in the long run, but knowing what you or they might endure during that process could bring you more pain and discomfort in the long run. So, being the fact that we have this lack of comfort, we might choose to ignore the information that is set before us. And lastly, there's the idea of no curiosity. It's something that you know you don't know, but you really don't have any interest in knowing more. And it could be any number of topics. I guess as an example, one thing that I know I don't know is nuclear physics. At the same time, guess what I have no interest in learning more about? Nuclear physics. It's not because of the fact that I think nuclear physics is useless. That's certainly not the case. But nuclear physics is not something that's going to be extraordinarily beneficial to me in the future. Now, watch my having said that I'm going to have to do a video sometime in the future where I'm going to have to make reference to nuclear physics and have to know a slight bit about it. But you see, in my discussion here, in my deciding that I don't want to learn more about nuclear physics, there are two aspects about this. I have no curiosity about it. None whatsoever. And the second one is, I do not believe that nuclear physics is going to be something that helps me in the future, or even helps me in any of my videos, or anything of that nature. And so, to an extent, you could say that the decision-making process also played a role in this, because of the fact that it's not useful to me. I'm not going to study it. So we can see, to an extent, there's a lack of help in decision making, but I also have no curiosity at all. So here's what happens with the information gap. First of all, you lack knowledge about something, and you have curiosity. That's referred to as you have the information gap, then you have the curiosity gap, okay? That's where the curiosity builds within us to the point where we want to know something. And again, that curiosity could be built by one of the three things that we've discussed already. You know, the curiosity, the anticipation, and the decision making. So you've got those two factors. The curiosity builds, then I'm going to look to see what I can find so that I can gain the information, and now I've got what's called the knowledge gap. That's the process of my gaining this information, this knowledge that's needed, so that the information gap and this curiosity gap are closing in, and it's just the knowledge that remains. That's what the information gap is. I want the knowledge because I don't have it. Curiosity is building up inside of me. That's going to lead me to find out the information that I need in order to gain this knowledge. And that's what clickbait takes advantage of. Clickbait realizes this, and knowing that A, there's money to be made off of clicks. Who cares if anybody reads this? That's not what matters. What matters is that individuals click the link. It's shown that through my advertisers and things of that nature that so many people clicked on this. Therefore, the advertisers, their ads and things of that nature were seen, and a few more, a few more things go into that. But there's the monetary gain out of it, and that's really and truly all that matters at the end of the day. It's for clickbait. More often than not, it's really and truly not about whether or not you gain this information. What matters to them is that they make money off of you. And that's why we need to be wary of these titles. Why we need a little bit of the knowledge that I'm trying to present in these videos is that at the end of the day, it's not about helping people learn. It's about how much gain they can get in the end. And with us having knowledge about things such as the information gap, will ultimately help us to avoid these scams. And it'll give us the tools we need to find the actual information out there. So this has been Pixelated Therapy, and as always, I appreciate your kind attention. Look out for one another. Love one another. God bless you all, and as always, game in good health.